I'm Carmen Schober, and thank you for chatting with me. Always so fun to talk
Totally.
books and writing. Um, so yes, I write a lot of different things. My career as a writer really launched with my two contemporary romance novels, After She Falls and Pretty Little Pieces, which were both published by Bethany House. Um, they are, kind of hard to describe in that there's not necessarily like I guess I could say my inspiration growing up, I loved reading Francine
Oh,
Rivers.
yes.
So I like to try to do similar things to what she did, which is, take very realistic and it's not very sanitized.
Yep.
Course, it is still written for those who want a clean romance read. And really, any kind of book, I like for there to be like a strong romance element, but I need to feel like these people are pretty messed up
Yeah.
and they have lots of problems because that's what makes a book. You need conflict and drama and all these interesting things to unfold.
Right.
Um, so those are my two contemporary romance novels. And then I also write for Evie Magazine, which if you aren't familiar with Evie, it sort of exists as this alternative women's media hub. We kind of offer something very different than what you find in like Cosmopolitan or Marie Claire. We're more so for the woman who wants entertainment and pop culture and beauty and all of those things, but also with a perspective on values and virtue and wisdom and how do all of those things come into play when we're talking about these things and enjoying these things. So those are kind of my main things. I also am a ghostwriter. I also do interviews for like a beach magazine. Any kind of writing that I think sounds interesting, I will do it.
I love that. I just love that.
Yeah.
Just loving all that writing, whether it's magazine or,
Yeah.
novels. That's so cool. I love that. So, when
Thank
was
you.
you kind of knew that you wanted to be a writer? When was the moment that you were like,
That's a good question. So I always, well, I guess I shouldn't say always. I definitely by the time I went into middle school, it was very clear that my skill set was much more geared towards writing and communication, reading. Like those were things that I had really no issue with. Math and science and those kinds of things were less, which I think is,
same?
somewhat typical among females. Obviously not across the board, but for me, I definitely gravitated towards reading, writing, talking, thinking, those kinds of disciplines. I read a
Yep.
lot of books. Um, and then I liked those things. I definitely cultivated those skills more than others. And then when I went to college, through an interesting series of events, I just had different advisors who would say, like, you give really good feedback. Have you considered maybe applying to be a TA? And at the time, I was in the English program. I picked English literature as an undergrad simply because I had so many English credits that it was going to be the most efficient path to graduation. And that's how I ended up in graduate school, is because I
Cool.
was encouraged to apply, and then you get your master's paid for. And I didn't really have a specific plan. So I was like, well, a free master's,
Why
you
not?
know,
Yeah.
why not do that? And in that is when I really zeroed in on creative writing. You have to pick a specific track when you do
Cool.
that program. I went to K-State. Um, and none of the other programs sounded very appealing to me except for creative writing. And that was really fun because that was my first exposure to, I was taking like memoir writing classes, I was taking poetry classes, I was taking novel writing, I was doing it all. And I think that's where I determined like I enjoy this. I like that I have a variety of things to write at all times, and I'm learning how to get better at each one.
Right.
And so by the time I graduated, I felt pretty I shouldn't say like confident that I would be a writer, but I definitely was like, I think I should try at
Yeah.
least. Like, I think I should give it my best shot. And so upon graduating, in the years following that is when I actually wrote After She Falls.
Okay, very
Yeah.
cool. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that's just
So
awesome.
it wasn't really like a moment. It was just kind of like a series of spending a lot of time writing and being like, what's the worst that could happen?
Right. That
You
is so
know?
cool. And so it is a sports romance sort of, right? And so
Yes.
what kind of inspired you with that? Do you like because it's boxing, right? That's so cool. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Thank
what kind
you.
of
Yeah.
like
It's a,
inspired you about that?
yeah. So it is, so my favorite movie is Rocky.
That's cool.
So that was, yeah, that was definitely like a major inspiration was if we take Rocky and we make it like, now and we make it different because obviously Rocky was about a boxer. My
Yep.
book is about mixed martial artists, which is
Cool.
similar. I mean, most mixed
Yeah.
martial artists are good at boxing. There's a lot of overlap, but they're also good at other things too.
Cool.
Um, yeah, and so I just kind of had fun with this idea of a female Rocky, um, taking elements of that original Rocky story, the fact that there's sort of this you know, broken dream, not really much hope for the future. And then this underdog character turns it around. But in my story, there's different elements too. It's a very strong, like second chance romance. And then there's also the faith element, which is in the Rocky series, but it's much more, in the background. Whereas with
Neat.
mine, which is kind of my approach to writing, at least in the Christian romance genre, is really want these characters to like actually wrestle with the things that I think most Christians do, Christians and non-Christians.
And I love that too, but kind of like, goes back too to what you were saying about Francine Rivers and like, non-sanitized and kind of like wanting those characters that actually really do struggle with real life things. Because for one,
Right.
that really makes them seem, realistic. And then also secondly, like it makes for a good story too.
There
Like,
is actually a very strong subculture of Christians in mixed martial arts and in many
oh,
athletic fields. So it was kind of realistic to that many times you'll see if you do watch, boxing or mixed martial arts, a lot of these athletes do have these really interesting relationships with Christianity. Some of them are clearly like mature, devout believers. Some of them are more exploring it. Some of them are antagonistic. Like it's very prevalent in that world. And so I was like, should have that be part of an important part of the story because I think, most people, especially now, I think we are societally finally getting to a place where people do want to have more candid conversations about religion and
yep.
spirituality and what they actually think. Whereas for a long time, it was very compartmentalized and it was like, that's private and we don't talk about that, which is really weird because as a society, we would talk about like anything else.
Right.
But like for most people, their relationship with God, their conception of God,
Yeah.
how they relate to Him and how they relate to other people because of that is pretty important.
Oh,
So, like,
totally. Yeah.
actually talking about it and working through it and
Right.
having stories about it, I think is important.
I love that you mentioned that because that is just so important. And I feel like our world really does need more stories that, hint at that and make people think, to like, because, for instance, like if someone who isn't a Christian gets a hold of your book and is introduced to, hope and light
Right.
and feels like they have a reason to wake up the next day or something like that, that is so powerful. I just love that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's probably my, writing books is really fun. Getting readers is fun. Like the whole becoming an author was fun. But I think that personally, my favorite part about it is I do have along the way all these different stories of people who read the book and something very, very like deeply personal resonated with them. Like there was one instance of a gentleman who was estranged from his son, and in the process of that relationship falling apart, the father had been a Christian, but had kind of stopped communicating with God, had stopped, sort of, and he knew my dad. That's why he bought my book, as he was just being supported, a good
Right.
friend, and started reading the book. And, in just kind of God's perfect timing, he's reading this book about this estranged relationship between a young woman and her uncle. And this guy gets a call from his son. And, it was just an affirmation to him that God knows what's going on with him. God cares. God is active in the situation. And, like, of course, when you're writing a story, you have no idea what can happen. But I think that's a cool thing to think about.
Are you
Mhm.
currently working on any other books right now at all?
Yes. So I have a new concept. I've been working on this one for a while, and honestly, I don't know when it will. I was working towards the first book to be published by the end of this year, but I'm actually pregnant with
Yep.
my fourth baby.
Yay.
Coming, yeah, next month.
That's
So
exciting.
realistic, thank you, thank you. Realistically, the timeline will be extended. Um, and that particular project, the premise was sort of a modern day Cuban mafia story.
Ah,
For those, yeah. So it would still have romantic elements. It would still kind of fit within the Carmen Schober world, but it would be pretty different from my
cool.
previous books. Be more of a family drama, more suspense. Um, with that one, I'm not totally sure yet at this point if I would pursue that in book form or if I would pursue that in film or television. So
Oh,
that's kind of like the next big decision I have to make after I have this baby.
yeah.
I have this baby. I rediscover what it's like to have a newborn because I kind of forgot. It's been 4 years. Um, and once life kind of settles back in, I think that will be the next big project.
Hey,
So,
that is
yeah.
so cool. So that idea, like, where did that come from? That's so cool. Like, I love the mafia element and then the Cuban. Like, I just love that.
Yeah, thank you. So my family on my mom's side is Cuban.
Okay.
So I just grew up, I mean, my family is not like we grew up in like, Indianapolis. We didn't grow up
Sure.
in like Little Havana or anything like that. So
Right.
I don't have that like firsthand experience of it in that way. But my mom is very close to her family members. A lot of like Cuban traditions have been kept alive in our family, recipes and
Cool.
stories, and just um, obviously the story of my grandparents immigrating to the United States, something that's very important to our family history because it changed the course of everything when they decided to
Oh,
do that. And
I get goosebumps when
my
you're talking
grandfather.
about it. I just get goosebumps. That's so awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's really incredible to think about really both sets of my grandparents. I'm very inspired by both of them because on the one hand, I had Cuban immigrant parents who came at the height of Castro's regime, very bravely came to the United States
Wow.
and forged a brand new life. I have my grandparents on my dad's side who are very just sort of hardworking blue collar people who went to work to really try to set up their children for a better life. I mean, it's just kind of two really shining examples of the American dream on both sides. And so that's kind of what this story, I think, would capture is that spirit, but also, obviously, going back to what we talked about, the unsanitized reality of in the pursuit of a dream in a fallen world, there's all these weird things that can happen. There's temptations and there's actual antagonists and there's um just so much potential to explore in that world.
Right.
So that's kind of why I think this story, despite me moving very slow, has just captured my attention ever since I published my other books. So this is
Good
kind of the
though. That's
one
cool.
that I would love to see. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So that's that one.
That's cool. So, and then you're trying to decide if it'll be a novel or screenplay. Um, I
Yeah.
mean, would you do both? Would you start out with the novel and then do screenplay, or is that kind of not what are you thinking? Are you not sure?
Yeah. The hardest thing I think to figure out right now, honestly, is just I'm really curious to see what the landscape of publishing will be in like 5 years,
Yeah,
because it's changing so fast.
right.
Um, Especially with AI, the way that people can make media is going
Yeah.
to just be so different than
Mhm.
how we currently go about that, that I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
I guess I want to be strategic, really, like and there's definitely no downside to writing it as a series. You can always sell books, but I almost wonder if, 5 years from now, it's as simple as just getting certain public or certain, what's the word, media entities to simply buy into the pitch and the concept,
Mhm.
and then who knows what you can, it's almost like
Right. Right.
just we're such an interesting moment in terms of media,
Yeah.
that I'm almost kind of just like, I want to see what my options are
Yeah.
when the dust settles.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
writing a book is a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, is like, and your return of investment, obviously, sometimes some books really take off, and that's great, and you can, make tons of money. But for most authors, it's a lot of work on the front
Yeah.
end, and it's a very like slow
Mm.
payday from there. And I'm like, if there's a way for me to game this system where I can maximize the amount of people that consume this content, obviously I want to do that. Like After She Falls was definitely this very laborious, I think because it was my first novel. Pretty Little Pieces was hard too. It was very difficult to write that one because I was postpartum and I had two little toddlers.
Right.
Um, but there's just something, sometimes certain projects just really like spark, and you don't care how long they take because you're having fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a really good way to put it. I love that.
Yeah.
So, since you're in Kansas, and we're on a road trip right now, if you
Yes.
could, if someone was going to be coming to your state, what things would you tell them to go and check out and go see?
Oh, fun. Okay. So if you're doing a road trip to Kansas, well, Manhattan, where I live, is really cute. It is a small town, very collegey. So if you like that vibe, Manhattan's definitely fun. Everybody wears purple. There's cute little bar district. You can go check out the little shops. You things specific to Kansas on your road trip. I'll just be straight up about that.
Okay.
Like Kansas is very flat. It is
Oh,
very we live in the Flint Hills, which is surprisingly pretty. We do have like prairies and rolling hills and all of that.
pretty.
Um, yes, I'm blanking on like specific little towns. The hardest thing that you would have coming to Kansas is like you it's so people underestimate how wide it is. So
Yeah.
wherever you're trying to go, it's going to take much longer than you anticipate. Well, like if you're in the center of Kansas and you're traveling west, it feels like you're trying to get to California.
Oh,
Like it's
funny.
just long and flat. But people are very nice. You'll meet tons of friendly people in Kansas. You will also see lots of cows. And what else do we have that's notable? Oh, the weather.
The weather.
Um, yeah, I don't think people realize, and maybe most Midwestern places are like this, but Kansas is pretty extreme. Like it's like
Okay.
almost 100 degrees right now. Um, and in the winter, it'll be like extremely freezing cold. So you get all the seasons, and they're pretty intense on the summer and winter end of the
Oh,
spectrum.
yeah. Yeah, North Dakota is the same. It gets so
Yeah,
cold, but like right now it's probably like yeah, probably like 90 something outside right now. But it's insane. It's crazy that it can go from one end of the side to the other side. It's insane.
I know. I know. And things can still grow. And
Yeah,
that's like the part. You're
crazy.
like in the dead of winter, seems like you're in a wasteland. And then sure enough, it's green again. It's
Right.
pretty, just
And
all over,
with
all the
winter, when
seasons.
the sky is the same color as the ground, it's like, oh my word. It's with white
Yeah.
ground, white sky. It's yeah. That's can be a little long. Our winters.
Yes.
How long are your guys' winters?
Our winter, I think, probably runs from, let's see, like December to February is
Okay.
you know, the
Big one.
cold depth of it.
Okay.
Um, really, yeah, I think the worst months to be in Kansas is January and February
Anywhere in
because
February.
it's just
Okay.
cold and
Yeah.
dark. It depends. It likes Kansas is very unpredictable. That's the thing too, is
I
like, you know,
I'm
you
sure.
dress like it's cold in the morning and then it's really hot and then it's raining and
Oh, that's so
yeah.
funny. If you were to go on a road trip and you were to bring one book with you, it's maybe your favorite book of all time. It's a really hard question. What is that number one book that you would bring with you?
Mhm.
It's like your comfort read.
That is hard. That
Huh.
is very hard. Well, I have my Bible on my phone, so we'll just
Yes.
put that, we'll have that. But separately, um,
Love
you
that
know,
you.
a book that I always like to read when I'm on a trip, um, it's a good little reset for getting in the mindset of breaking through resistance and procrastination. It's a book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, if you've ever heard of that one. It's really short. It's this tiny little, it's almost like a booklet. Um, but it is just these little powerful insights into often what stops us from taking action,
Mhm.
particularly on like creative pursuits. Like, I think one of Pressfield's main arguments would be that a lot of us have this creative energy that we want to, you know, sort of unleash into the world. And for various reasons, we don't. And he kind of explores what all of those different reasons are and why. And he's not a Christian, but a lot of his ideas, I think, if you are a Christian, as you're reading through it, you realize like so much of it is fear, so much of it is ego, so much of it is doubting God. And so it just kind of this, it's almost like a little artistic meditation on why you should create the things you want to create. It's really good and it's very short. Just knock
Awesome.
it out.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. And then where can people find you and your books online?
Yeah, yeah. So my books are pretty much anywhere. You can get them on Amazon. I'm sure you can get them wherever you like to buy books, probably. I always do like to direct people to Baker Book House if they want to support an independent local Christian bookstore, local to Minnesota, of
Oh,
course. Or no, is it Minnesota or is it Michigan? I always get them mixed up.
yeah, I don't
Where are
know.
you, Baker Book House?
Yeah,
It's in one of those places.
I'll have to look that up.
Beth, yeah, Bethany House has things in Michigan and Minnesota, I'm pretty sure.
Hey,
So yeah, and I have mom brain, so now I'm like they're
that's all right.
interchangeable.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And then if they want to follow along with other writing things that I'm doing, if they want my EV articles or just, you know, an update from me on what's next, I kind of do a lot, like when I send out my newsletter, it's a lot of what I'm thinking about and what I bought. And, you know, it's like the whole whatever's in here. Carmenschober.com, just my name. So that's a easy
Yeah,
way to stay.
that's great. Oh my goodness, that's so exciting. I'll put that all in the description below and everything. And it's been great. And I love your writing on Evie, so keep up the great work on there. And
Thank
um,
you.
can't wait to read your book.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, I can't wait to see what's in store for you. So it's gonna be super fun.
Thank
So it's
you.
lovely to chat with you, Carmen, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thanks. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Thanks for riding shotgun on the Romance Reading Road Trip. I'm so excited for you to be joining this journey with us. Be sure to go down to the video description below and sign up for the passport. You're not going to want to miss out on it.